Yo, what's up, booktube? It's David from Live Forever Die Trying, and today I have a little book haul for you. So, as you can see from the title, it's all about habit setting or meta learning. And now, I try to stay away from kind of the self help or business side of YouTube or Bookstagram myself, mainly because I feel like it's very salesy and inauthentic in a way. And it seems like a lot of people trying to sell you false promises or say by buying this book that you're going to be able to do this, or do this with your startup, or save this amount on taxes through reading these books about money, or blah, blah, blah. I'll go on a tangent about that in a second. But why are these particular books, or why is this particular topic of interest to me? You know me, you know this channel. First and foremost, I like reading about politics, futurism, longevity, and science. In other realms, I dabble in a little bit of everything, whether that's a little bit of religion, like what you saw last month, or what have you. So why am I picking up self-help books? And really, I'm a little bit upset with how little I take away from each reading session. And what I mean by that is, I'll get through a 200, 300 page book, and I'll pull away 5 to 10 good key concepts, but there's nothing that's really solidly formed. Like, I couldn't sit down and write, a 1,000, 1,500 word summary of the book just off the cuff. Part of this is the reason I keep a library and I come back and reference books as different books interact with each other. But I don't know if it's something about me or if everybody's like this, but I just don't feel like I take as much away from books as I can. And part of that, I don't know, is the way that I read or the way that I take notes or, what have you. But my point of this is that I'm trying to improve this aspect of my reading, hopefully derive a little bit more value, or at least get a little bit more information out of the time I'm already putting in. Just as a qualifier, I am by no means upset with what I'm reading. I still take massive amounts of enjoyment about reading through the book just as an activity, regardless of if I forgot it all immediately afterwards or not. I still like the narrative of learning about how certain scientists came across certain findings, or what certain fungi do in the environment around them, or pick a random topic. It's still just fun for me to learn about that information, even if it doesn't stick up here. So me trying to learn a little bit more or retain a little bit more isn't necessarily from an enjoyment side of things. It's almost like a little bit of guilt or maybe imposter syndrome. I'm a guy on YouTube like reviewing nonfiction books, so I feel like I should be a better nonfiction reader. Anyways, tangenting pretty hard now, but that's kind of the background about what led me to these books. To go back on my tangent from earlier about like those very salesy books and what I hope these ones aren't. I've read books in the past, specifically self-help, that are just crap. To pick on one book and one author, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod was kind of the one that made me stop reading self-help. The first year, 2019, I started reading. I read a good bit of self-help, and then I kind of hit that book. And it's all about waking up early, having a great morning that's going to change your life. And I've never been a morning person, not through middle school, high school, early adulthood. Could not wake up to save my life. The only time I could wake up is if I'm in a new environment and I didn't sleep well or get a good night's sleep the night before, and I was already half awake. So I read that book, and it's just telling me all these things about how this is a life-changing thing, and all you have to do is set your alarm, set your intentions, express your gratitude, and then blah, blah, blah. And it's not scientifically backed. And that's not to say like something like a soft science or like gratitude's certainly a thing. Like we can study that, but neither here nor there. Anyways, I read that book, I'm very dissatisfied. I go on to read other books, specifically about genetics. Come to find out there's a PER3 gene that sets your chronotype. So on one hand, you have this self-help book that's like, hey, if everyone could just wake up in the morning, then everything would be funky fresh. But I'm reading these other books that are more scientifically focused, and they're like, no, there's 4 different alleles for this genetic chronotype that determines if you're an early riser, a late riser, or what knobs it tweaks on your circadian rhythm. And that really just disillusioned me with any soft self-help. I get the vibe that they're trying to sell something. I get the vibe that they're just making a quick buck. They're learning something, repackaging it, and just regurgitating that information. And that's always given me a bad vibe. Not to say that there isn't good self-help out there. I've read, How to Win Friends and Influence People and found value out of that. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And there are good books out there. It's just you have to sort through a bunch of crap before you find them. So I did a good bit of research, specifically on Reddit and the Betterment Book Club and some of the self-improvement subreddits, and was able to find these 4, which is The Power of Habit, Atomic Habits, Ultralearning, and Limitless. So we have 2 on habits here, 2 on meta-learning. To start off with, we have a book that I actually failed to read in my first year of reading. It's ironic. I bought a book about habits and then didn't read the book about habits because I had bad reading habits. But we have The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. So this is going to be a second attempt. And from what I remember in the first 70 pages reading it originally, it was actually a very enthralling and scientifically focused book. So this was the easiest for me to pick up out of the 4 here. In short, it tries to tell you in the brain what a habit is and how habits are formed. At the beginning of the book, the first 70 pages I did read, they talk you through the story of this elderly gentleman that either had a stroke or some type of brain damage, but it broke his short-term memory, for a simplification of terms. And he was so bad that he couldn't go into his house and remember where the bathroom was of this new property. But he could walk around the neighborhood just fine, even though he couldn't tell you what you said to him in a conversation 2 sentences ago. So it kind of shows us that short-term and long-term memory are stored in different places, and then shows you how habits are formed, and then goes on, what I'm assuming, to show you how to set those good habits and what a good habit consists of. So all in all, pretty excited to get back at this one for a second time. Following that up closely, we have this little beauty of a book. This is actually so pretty that I didn't want to buy it because I thought that this marketing was too good, that the actual information couldn't be that good. Like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is just a red book with yellow lettering on it. It looks like a crappy book, but since it's recommended so much, I kind of, that's a pro of the book, because if people are recommending it and it looks like shit, it's got to be good, right? But this one's just pretty. And I don't know if this is the book that originally stated it, but he mentions the 1% rule on the inner cover here. And basically the 1% also goes by minimum input or minimum effort input or minimal achievable goal or something like that. But basically the idea is if you want to get better at reading or spend more time reading or read a book a week, start with 1 page a day. And if you just sit down and you read that first page, you'll probably end up reading more. So you set that minimal achievable goal, and you get that dopamine hit as soon as you complete your goal, and that reward path sets your habit, and you can ingrain that. Now, this book actually has a lot of studies in it, and particularly, you can kind of judge a good book by the amount of studies, but where the studies are from a glance. So you have this portion of the book from page 275 to just under 300, which are all sources. And if you just read through the sources, you have Journal of Psychology, Journal of Sociology, and these different scientific, first sources. Whereas some of the crappier books, you'll see them cite other books, or you'll see them cite secondhand sources like editorial pieces, or YouTube is kind of the worst of them, or Wikipedia, which... Why not cite Wikipedia sources? Did you not read the original source? Or are you just reading that regurgitated information to repackage it? But I use that also as a way to kind of vet this book a little bit. And I'm very excited to see what additional information this can put on top of this one. For the first of the meta-learning books, you've seen me read Ultralearning and recap that in my last wrap-up. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it here. Quickly, my complaint of it was a lot of narrative and a little bit of actionable goals. The actionable goals I got out of it in particular were spaced repetition and immersion, but let's continue. We then have Limitless by Jim Quick. So this breaks down a whole lot more topics. So he has neuroplasticity as well as just neurochemical stuff in this book, as well as the habit formation like the other 2 first books. But it also talks about mindset and these other different kind of mental tactics how memory works and how to organize memory for better learning. But I feel like I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's back up a little bit. Jim Quick is probably a name you've seen. And if you're like me, it's been on like a YouTube ad where he's trying to sell you his course or something. So this is probably the book I'm most skeptical about, to be honest. But I've seen him on multiple podcasts for people that I do respect. So it's given me that little bit of credibility that I needed to actually pick this up. If I remember correctly, Jim Quick either had a learning disability or a mental disability as a child up through high school, which led him down this path of finding ways to learn because he was naturally a little bit slower behind. And through this journey of learning how to learn better, he ended up getting this collection together. And now he's a coach for a lot of these higher level athletes, Hollywood celebrities, and what have you. But just the breakdown of the actual book itself, it seems to be very little narrative and a lot more substance. And I'm hoping, not reading this book right now, I haven't read any chapters of this book, I'm hoping it's just not filled with a bunch of, go get 'em tiger type of encouragement and motivational type of verbiage. I'm hoping that this has more substance than something like Ultralearning. And yeah, that's the 4 books I've picked up. I'm looking to complete all of these in either the first quarter or the first half of 2021. It's kind of scary. I'm recording this at the end of February, which is the second month out of 12, so we're a sixth of the way done with the year. I only have another month or so until the quarter's over. That's crazy. Almost a year in the pandemic. But nonetheless, so we're trying to come out of 2021 as a better learner, trying to take more away from our books. And hey, if I end up implementing some of these tactics, there'll be some videos coming about how to read books better or how to remember more from my reading. Right now, I can't quite perfectly comment on those, but we're doing our research. As always, these books will be left in the description below with my affiliate link. So if you want to support the channel, help me cover the cost of these books, you can buy through this Amazon links if you were going to buy through Amazon anyways. Equally important to me is ending aging. So if you want to go through smile.amazon.com, donate a portion of your order to charity, you can choose the SINS Foundation. Very near and dear to my heart. But support local above either of those if you prefer. Keep small business owners in business. And yeah, if you plan on reading any of these books, or if you have any comments or just any information, any pairings that I should read with these books, anything I should keep in mind, any bad studies, anything, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you want to support the channel, you can like and subscribe to help it along the algorithm. Anyways, until next time, peace.